Time now for the Left of Lansing Monday Musing for October 6th of 2025. I'm Pat Johnston. This is what happens when a sitting president wages war on an American city. That's a quote from Stacey Davis Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union, in response to dear leader Trump and his regime's invasion of an American city. Davis Gates' statement concluded an excellent article by contributing editor for In These Times and friend of this podcast, Sarah Lazare, along with Lindsay Kashkaran, who's with the National Priorities Project at the Institute for Public Policy. In their piece featured in These Times titled, "The 13th Largest Army in the World is Unleashing Violence in Chicago," Lazare and Kashkaran report how the current infusion of billions of dollars into immigration and customs enforcement, known as ICE, surpasses the military spending for countries like Turkey, Spain, Italy, Canada, and even Israel, although the Netanyahu regime would like the United States to spend even more money there. But thanks to the MAGA murder budget passed last summer, the Trump regime was handed $170 billion to conduct its mass kidnapping, occupation, deportation, and disappearance agenda. This money is allowing the regime, led by little fascist Stephen Miller, to occupy American cities where black and brown people make up the large populations of these cities. Lazare and Kashkaran give a breakdown of the regime's occupation program, which includes $45 billion to expand detention facilities and nearly $30 billion for ICE removal and enforcement so that ICE can attract new beer-bellied soldiers. And listen to this sentence from their In These Times story. The $14 billion annual budget for detentions alone, just a portion of the new spending, is more than the military spending of 124 countries, including Norway, Pakistan, Denmark, Greece, and Iran. That is unbelievable, not to mention downright dumb. Of course, some of that money is going to the newly opened ICE facility in Baldwin, Michigan, an area starving for jobs, but those jobs aren't permanent. I mean, we could find more inventive ways to ensure long-term economic stability and growth for a struggling region around Baldwin, but we care more about granting major tax cuts for Elon Musk, Betsy DeVos, and Donald Trump. And we care more about terrorizing undocumented citizens. Well, they're probably not all undocumented, of course, but if they've got brown skin, we have to assume they are illegal according to the regime. But this $170 billion is mostly being used to terrorize and militarize American cities, aka brown and black people. No, these cities aren't being terrorized, militarized, or occupied by a foreign entity or force. This is all being done by a MAGA Republican regime. Lazare and Kashkaran give detailed accounts of the regime's mass Gestapo, inflicting violence and fear in Chicago, including last weekend when they arrived in black helicopters, ransacked a 5-story apartment building, ripping parents and children out of their beds, zip-tying many of them, who are also United States citizens who have rights in this country, or they used to. But you see, this apartment building was filled with brown and black people. Get the picture? The regime's Homeland Security officials say that the raid arrested some 37 people who were suspected of gang-related activity or were guilty of immigration violations. But do you trust the Trump regime to tell you the truth ever? You see, it's not about criminals that the regime and MAGA Republicans care about. No, they gain extra delight in watching their armies inflict fear, terror, and trauma on people of color. That's why Stephen Miller and the Trump regime are sending their ICE army to all of these cities. MAGA Republicans always claim to care about crime, which was always laughable on its face, considering they backed a guy guilty of multiple crimes and who also led the charge to violently attack the Capitol building on January 6th. But they also claimed they wanted to crack down on crime. And yet, these ICE raids in parks, homes, places of worship, or at places of employment where many immigrants are trying to make a better life for themselves here in the good old US of A. No, these raids aren't making America safer. And again, that is what the regime wants. It wants the chaos. It's not to get Jeffrey Epstein out of the news, or the lack of jobs numbers out of the news, or how tariffs are decimating farmers out of the news, or our gun epidemic out of the news, or how the MAGA murder budget added $140 billion in spending for ICE while gutting Medicaid spending and clean energy jobs across the nation. No, it's all because for all of their bluster about how socialism will lead to government tyranny, where the military will end up walking down Main Street, US of A, MAGA Republicans always sided with tyranny as long as it was their side in control. Make no mistake about it. Now, the bigger question for me is, when will Democratic leaders in D.C. announce they won't vote to end the Trump regime's healthcare government shutdown unless the regime not only agrees to reverse the draconian MAGA cuts on Medicaid and ACA spending, but also reverses the violent and unconstitutional occupation in our American cities? I mean, we're talking about the rule of law and our democracy here, everyone. Why aren't more and more Democrats leading the charge to save our cities and the regime from the fascism it's leading against the American people? Where are they? leftoflansing@gmail.com is the best way to reach me. Subscribe to the podcast and also subscribe to Left of Lansing on YouTube. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, the Gram, and Facebook. Take the battle to them.